Hi everyone, just a short video to give people an idea of the locations of the airports from Buenos Aires and La Plata, and a little bit about La Plata itself. As you can see on the map, I'm showing the two major airports near Buenos Aires, Aeroparque and Ezeiza, and the city of Buenos Aires itself, and La Plata down here in the bottom right. The most common international airport near Buenos Aires is Ezeiza, which is also called Ministro Pistarini. It's about 20 kilometers from the center of Buenos Aires, and it's accessed from Buenos Aires by a freeway. There's also a smaller airport just near Buenos Aires called Aeroparque, and it's also called Jorge Newbery. It's really close to the city, and a lot of domestic and South American services fly from there. So if you're coming or going to Santiago in Chile, it's possible you may fly in or out of there also. Natalia and I flew out of there in April when we went to Mendoza, and a taxi ride from Aeroparque to La Plata cost us about $80 Australian. Buenos Aires is about 50 kilometres from La Plata as the crow flies, and there's a freeway which runs from the southeast of the city of Buenos Aires all the way to La Plata, and so it's a pretty good road too. Most of the flights that come from Chile or other international destinations will fly into Ezeiza. There's no direct fast route between Ezeiza and La Plata, which means you have to follow the freeway from Ezeiza up to Buenos Aires and then merge onto the freeway which goes to La Plata. If I set the directions in Google Earth, it's about 80 kilometers. Let me just set that. It's about 80 kilometers and about somewhere between an hour 15 and an hour 30 in terms of timing. There's several toll points along the way on both the freeway between Ezeiza and Buenos Aires and between Buenos Aires and La Plata. So you need to have some Argentine pesos with you if you're going to drive from Ezeiza Airport to La Plata. In April, I think the total was about 50 pesos, which is about $4 Australian. But with inflation, it could be more later in the year. If you're going to catch a taxi from Ezeiza to La Plata, plan on spending about $120 to $130 Australian, just because of the distance and the time. There's buses which go from Ezeiza Airport to La Plata as well. Okay, so let's take a bit of a closer look at La Plata itself. La Plata is really interesting in its layout. It has a diamond grid shape. It was originally built to be the capital city of the province of Buenos Aires. So the city of Buenos Aires is not the capital of the province of Buenos Aires, even though it's the capital of the country. Buenos Aires has its own federal province, kind of like Canberra. So La Plata is the capital of the province of Buenos Aires. It was designed by a mason, and it has this very unique diamond grid shape of avenues which go in directions both ways. And it has streets, lots of streets on the grid, which are one-way streets, and it also has diagonals which cross the city, which cross across the grid. Every 6 blocks or so there's a square, so there's a lot of green space in amongst the city, and the squares are like little parks. In between the two directions on the avenues, there's often green space in the middle also. The city is actually quite large. Just to give you some idea of how large it is, if I fly over to Sydney, where is Sydney? So coming up now is the city of Sydney, and then if I overlay La Plata on top of Sydney, you'll see the area of La Plata covers probably, maybe 3 or 4 times the area of the Sydney CBD. So it's actually quite a large city. In terms of getting around the city, the blocks are about, I think the blocks are 150 meters in size. So if you have to go any great distance across the city, if you don't have a car, it's probably easiest to catch a taxi. So that's a bit of a just a quick first look at what La Plata actually looks like. I'm putting together a a Google map which has all the various locations for the wedding and points of interest and places to eat. There's a few little locales within the city where it's good to go for shopping and places to eat. So I'll make sure I include those, and also where people are staying as well. All right, so hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea about the distances between the cities and a little bit about La Plata as well.